Today I'm going to discuss wholesaling with you. What is wholesaling? This might be the best way to get into real estate if you've never been in real estate before and you don't have any money. Wholesaling is like any other business. I'll use the grocery store business as an analogy. They buy all their products wholesale, put them on the shelf, and then they sell them retail to you and I. Okay, we're doing the same thing in real estate. We're going to line up stuff for wholesale, and we can either wholesale it off to somebody else for a small fee, or we can resell it retail just like the grocery store does. Okay, why wholesale? Easy way to get started with no capital. Let's say you don't have any money. You can get started this way because you're really not going to purchase the property. So therefore, you don't need a lot of money. You're going to need an option deposit, but I'll get to that later. Okay, the reason why, again, is you're not going to buy the property. You're going to option the property, and you can either option it off to somebody else, you can sell the option to somebody else, you can sell it for retail. There's a lot of different ways to go. But that's why you don't need any money, because we're not going to be the end user. The end user is going to come up with all the money. Okay, we're going to lock it up under a contract. And in this case, we use an option contract. I'll explain that in a minute, what you need on the option contract. Okay, we are going to assign the option contract to an end user for a fee. It could be a small fee, it might be a large fee, depending on the transaction, how much equity there is there. Okay, next is you don't have to be licensed to wholesale. Why don't you have to be licensed? Because you have control of the property. You don't own the property, you have the option to buy the property, so you have control over it. And in this case, you don't need a license. It would be a commission then if you charged it that way. Number 6 here is you can sell it retail and pocket the spread. This is the way we usually go. We try to lock it up and then we try to sell it with the retail price. But you don't always have to do that. Sometimes we wholesale it off for $5,000, $10,000, something like that. Depends on the property, depends on how much money we think we can make on it and how much spread there is. Now, another trick to the game is you've got to get there before the real estate agent. If you don't get there before the real estate agent, he's going to get there and pull out a listing form, and he wants to list it for the maximum amount possible, which is retail. And the reason why he wants retail is because he gets the maximum commission possible. And I understand that. As a real estate broker, I understand what he's trying to do. But I believe there's more money in spread than there are in commissions. Okay, now where are we going to find these wholesale properties? Okay, we are going to look for distressed properties. There's 2 types of distressed properties. There are property distresses and there are ownership distresses. And they could be 2 different things, and probably are. For instance, a property distress is something that needs to be fixed up. Something you need to go in there and put some money into to fix it up, and maybe he doesn't have the money, maybe he doesn't want to spend the money on it. I don't know what the situation is, but it's a property distress, and that's something we like. The next thing is the owner's distress. That could be something that has happened to the owner, where the property's in great shape, but the owner's not in great shape. He might be in bankruptcy court. He might have another business that's not doing well. You know, maybe his income stopped. I don't know what the case may be, and every case is different. But that is an example of ownership distress. Now, some of these distresses would be foreclosures. That's a good place to find them. You can sign up at your courthouse, you can go down and find them, or you can sign up with these services that list these daily, and then you can send letters, call on the phone, knock doors, whatever you want to talk to them. Next are trustee sales. Now, trustee sales, especially here in California, are all cash. Okay, so you're going to need capital one way or another. Now, if you go out and get a partner and they put up all the cash, again, you're going to the auction with no cash and you can make money. However, if you don't have that, you got to have the cash to buy the property at the auction. So that may be a great deal, but unless you got the cash, one way or another, it might not be so well. Okay, the next is probates. You know, somebody has died. Okay, now there's a couple ways of buying probates. One way is going through the court, and you don't want to do that. If you're doing to do that, you're paying retail, and you got to put 10% up, and I've already done a video on probates, so if you need to know more information on those, go to my video on those. But you want to go use the Independent Administration Act of Estates Act. That's a tongue tire. But you want to go through that one because you can negotiate with the owners as low as possible. You might not, some owners you might not be able to negotiate with, but some of them you can, particularly if they're out of state and they don't want the property, that type of thing. All right, next is divorces. You know, that's pretty self-explanatory. Two people are splitting up. They got to get rid of the property because each one has to get their half of the equity to move on. So that's another good place, is the divorce courts. Bankruptcies. Bankruptcies are another place. You know, why are they in bankruptcy court? I don't know the answer to that, but you might be able, not always, but you might be able to go in and get a good deal. Now, this is not like a probate where you got to come up to the retail price when you're in court. This is completely separate. You come in and work a deal out with the owner of the property. You submit it to the bankruptcy court, the trustees, the judges, they make the decisions there. Okay, and then the last one on my list here is code violations. Those are another good ones, because when code violations, this is an example of a property distress. When they have the code violations, then people, you know, a lot of people don't want them at all. I happen to like those. But you can go in there and just fix the problems, and now you've got a property that you can sell retail when you fix the property. But when you buy the property, you got to buy it wholesale. That's very important. Now, how do we buy all that stuff? Well, actually, we use an option agreement. And these are what you need in your option agreement. You need, number one, a wholesaler's name, which is the buyer, and a seller's name. Okay, that has to be in the contract. You need a property address on the contract. You need an option price. You know, what deal have you worked out with the seller? Okay, you're going to need an option period. Is it for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years? That's very important. It tells you how long you got or how much equity you can make before you have to sell it off to the end user. Now you have an option fee. Actually, there's twofold here. You're going to have an option fee that you're going to have to pay the seller, the option consideration, and when you sublease it or sublet it, therefore you're going to get a fee from the other person. So there's two option fees here. One you're going to receive and one you're going to give up. And next is your option provisions. If you have any specific provisions you want to put in that option agreement, that's where you put them. Now, if anybody out there would like a form, already a blank form, all they have to do is either contact me at my email address, or they can private message me on Facebook or something like that, and I will send you an option contract by email. And that seems to be today's video. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. You can reach me either at YouTube, hashtag Floyd Loans. Make sure you put the hashtag in there because it's much easier to find. Facebook at Floyd Loans, Twitter at Floyd Loans, or you can just email me direct at floyd@woodrumfinancial.com.